Hey everybody, this is Kevin with Nursing KAMP.com and welcome to Mastering Nursing School, where I cover the 7 most important things about nursing school and how to prepare for tests, how to take notes, and then how to apply what you've learned in practice and in clinical. So let's get into it. This is video number 2. And in this video, I'm going to cover the burn list. One of the most important things about really isolating content and taking your notes and putting them into a list and comparing with other students and to see whether or not you caught what was the most important thing. So let's get into it. Okay, in the previous lecture, I talked about 4 squares. And the reason we do 4 squares is to isolate the content as we're listening to lecture and to really start to figure out, what is the content of the lecture. And how we do that is that we separate a piece of paper into 4 different areas. And as we listen to the lecture, I made the recommendation, always record your lectures because your mind is going to fade in, fade out, and all those types of things. So when you're studying, this is a way to have a depository of all that content. And as the teachers talked, we said that we're going to start to write down the different areas. And when we're looking at the content, we said that we would write down like hypertension, and then we would then categorize it with a plus or a minus. And then if the teacher was talking about like medications, like, hydrochlorothiazide or something like that, and we knew that was related to, hypertension, we would draw an arrow to it. And this sheet right here can be kind of multiple. You can have like 3 or 4 sheets. So what you want to really do is number them. You do 1, and then you'll do 2, then you'll do 3, and so on. And what you're really doing here is isolating the content. And we talked about that, and then we talked about all the methods that you start to do. But what do you do with this information? Well, the information then will go into what's called a burn list. And a burn list is from your brain book. Now, a brain book kind of looks like something like this, and it's just a little book. And what you do is that as you start to pull this data out, you want to start to put them into your brain book. Now, your brain book would be basically just a running list of everything. And that's basically not your notes. That's not all the data. It's just basically the concept. So medications, they said like lisinopril, or they said diltiazem. As the teacher is talking and as you're learning the content, you'll start to build this list and you start to hear things that are the most important. And this is important for the burn list. And what the burn list is it's just basically a depository of all this content that you've been putting together. And you want to start to build that burn list. Now, all schools are going to generally be on units, right? So all tests will be basically on units. And what that means is that if you're on a cardiac unit, it's going to be all cardiac. So it'll be a cardiac burn list. And that cardiac burn list will then start to grow into these different areas. And what you want to do is put a little box next to it, and then you'll be doing the pluses and your minuses on it. And it goes into this little book right here. And it's, you get these little books in anywhere. I mean, and it doesn't matter how big it is. It should be small though. Something that you can put into your clinical pocket, your lab coat, or your scrub top. And the reason that is that when you're in clinical, you can pull up this brain book and then start to work on this content and start to massage this content and learn it. Okay, that's one way that you use this burn list. You take the content from these 4 squares and you put it into this burn list. Okay, once you start to figure this out, you want to start to build from your burn list. These go together? Is this a concept? So this will be CHF, right? Because once you have your concepts, you want to start to categorize your burn list, right? That's the second thing you want to do. When do you do this? Well, after you study, because this is going to be your walking burn list. It's going to be the thing that you will take to clinical. You'll take, when you're on and you're looking on your phone or you're studying on your iPad or your computer, where you just basically are working through this list. Okay, so that's the second thing you do for this burn list. Now, the third thing you do for this burn list is you compare it. Okay, so what happens is that when you get together as a study group, you say to yourself, okay, let's go through your burn list. And then you go through it. So you say, okay, well, who had lisinopril? I had that, lisinopril. Okay? So everybody had it, so everybody knows about it. So therefore, it's most likely to be tested on. It's not nuts to know. You know, if somebody says, okay, well, you talked about vitamin D and such with whatever. You're like, well, why'd you put that there? You know, if I don't have that on my burn list, you don't have it on your burn list. So it's probably not most likely. It's not the most important thing. So then you figure out, and that's what you do when you're studying a burn list. So you kind of go through it and you say, okay, you got a plus or minus with that. Are you good with that? Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm a little shaky on the cardiogenic shock. And then you kind of go through the next step of this. Well, what's your A sleeps on this content? What's your A whales on this content? What's your A leaps on this content? And that's the third video in Nursing Tutor Tips in order to understand how to study for the NCLEX Nursing School and the content that we have here today. So I'll see you on the next video where we cover how we use the burn list and move on into really exploring this data and how do we study this data that we truly understand it. So we'll see you now in the next video.